Welcome to the SBCA podcast, Component Connection, where we explore the people, ideas, trends, and innovations shaping the structural framing industry. Regardless of how you touch this industry, we're glad you're here. Enjoy the episode.
Hi, my name is Ashley Baker, the Director of Education for SBCA, and I'll be your host for this episode of Component Connection. I'm joined by 6 of my incredible colleagues, and we are going to talk about the Bellevue OQM that occurred last week. We want to talk about some key observations and important takeaways from the event, and of course, encourage you to attend our next OQM, which is after BCMC this year, December 8th through the 10th in Charlotte, North Carolina. First, let's go through some quick introductions. Amanda, let's start with you.
Yes, hello. I am Amanda Newitz, Associate Director with SBCA.
I'm Molly Butts, SBCA's Interim Co-Executive Director.
Greg Greenlee, also the Interim Co-Executive Director.
Michaela Valenzuela, Membership Coordinator.
Corey Lane, the Safety Coordinator with the SBCA.
Taylor Pedigo, the Event Coordinator with SBCA.
Great. Thank you. Well, let's kick things off. Amanda, this is your first OQM that you've attended as our Associate Director. What did you think? Tell us about it.
I loved it. It was absolutely fabulous. It was a great opportunity to be in the same space with our members and just share conversation and learnings. I was absolutely impressed with our education sessions. As we were getting ready to prepare for this conversation recap, I was thinking about the sessions and reflecting on sort of what stood out to me. And there were so many things to try to narrow down, but I'll share a couple of my top takeaways. Aside from that, actually, I went on the plant tour and I wasn't planning to talk about that, but the experience and just seeing everything in action, the saws running and the folks sort of out there with the hammers and the whole just sort of moving through the plant and seeing how everything flows was really impressive. I really enjoyed that experience as well, sort of getting off site. But bringing it back to sort of the education sessions, a couple of things that really stood out to me were, one, during the AI panel discussion, that was really interesting. And I really loved hearing the different perspectives and then sort of coming together for the discussion. And one takeaway that I had was I was really reminded about the thought that, having an AI strategy when technology might not be your native language per se can feel extremely overwhelming, right? Many of us really don't know where to start. And the panel was really great about bringing it back to, we don't necessarily have to think about the end stage and where we're trying to be in terms of AI strategy. Let's walk it back and think about what is our data strategy and what are the steps that we can take to prepare ourselves for AI tools and things like that. And so, there's a lot of tangible ways to really start from the beginning and take bite-sized steps towards getting to where we want to be and finding a really successful roadmap and path toward that. So I loved that perspective and just thinking, we sometimes can sort of get out of the clouds and really bring it back into some tangible steps that feel very much achievable and plan, a 3-month, a 6-month, a 12-month roadmap, whatever that might look like. And any business, any organization can do that. So that felt really great and just really kind of being reminded of that. And the other piece that I wanted to mention was during the European tour review, which was fabulous. And I loved hearing about everyone's experiences. It was really interesting. And I think they made it really enticing for members to want to participate in that tour in the future. But what resonated with me, I think it was Justin Richardson made the point that sometimes you go and you do these things and you don't always get the aha moment, right? It's not always like, I can take this back and I can innovate or I can do something better. Sometimes it's just reinforcement that, I'm doing the right thing right now. I'm on the right path. I'm using the right tools. I'm using the right systems and processes. And so sometimes when we seek out innovation or new ways to do things, the learning, there's actually ROI in finding out that we're actually doing a pretty good job right now. And so just getting that reinforcement was really valuable. And to hear him express it that way, it reminded me that, we're not always going to have that, big bang theory when we go out on and do these kinds of things. And that's okay. There's a lot of value in that and taking that back to the team and reassuring ourselves that, we're doing the right thing. So lots and lots of takeaways. I'm sure I could use up this whole time to talk about more, but those were certainly some that are top of mind that really stuck with me, that I brought a little inspiration back with me.
That's such a great point. I think Justin was the one also who said, it's so wonderful to be able to take the opportunity and let the team who is, staying home step into their roles and absolutely excel and watch the business, flow as it should. It's a great thing to see, and it gives them an opportunity to take advantage of those kinds of things as well. Well, great. Corey, this was also your first OQM and you were involved in an education session, a safety session. I know you were a little nervous going into it, but you didn't need to be at all because you hit it out of the park. What'd you think?
Yeah, it was just a great experience kind of being on display after, I felt like I was in the shadows and nobody really knew who I was for the longest time. It was just great to share, what I've been working on all this time. And I think it was just so well received. And we've talked internally about it, but it was so valuable for me, especially just to make some connections. I had a lot of people coming up to me, talking safety, reaching out with interest for, our safety committee, wanting to get into the portal to use our resources. So, being in person was just so big for me finally. And yeah, it was just an overall awesome experience. Radio QM, loved it.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that, as the lead up, trying to impart some wisdom and, hey, this is what an OQM's like. You're going to be just taken back completely by the resources and the willingness to help. And, we talked about the fact that until the very last moment of the OQM, you still had people coming up and expressing their interest to get involved in the safety committee and sharing content, all the things that, been trying to make happen. And it's hard because people are not always, they have full-time jobs. And so, catching the email that comes through with an ask, that can be hard to do sometimes. And, you made those contacts and you've got all sorts of resources now and things to use.
Absolutely.
That's great. Well, another education session that we hosted was led by our very own Greg Greenlee and Howard Gager. And it was a slam dunk as well. Greg, you've had quite a few people reach out and ask for more content, right?
Yeah, interestingly so. You're always a little nervous when you decide to do a presentation on code issues. That's usually a pretty good way to snooze the audience pretty quickly. One of the neat things about an OQM typically is you get to share, as an association, all of the things that we work on. And there's a lot. And to cover that, we, probably have a tendency to, gloss over a lot of things. And one of the things we did with this education session was we took a deep dive into a very specific issue and really drilled down on it. And I think as a result, that provided a much better educational platform for a lot of the people that were in the room listening to it, and they got a lot out of it. And I think that probably directly relates to why I've had so much further, conversations and feedback from people wanting more information. So I think going forward, it might be a model that we look at as a way to make these even, more beneficial for the people in the room.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway. I had conversations that were very similar with some members where they really liked the specifics, even the specifics of the AI panel, which is great feedback for us. I always appreciate that. And, I think the value is definitely there when we dive a little bit deeper too. Great. So let's transition just a little bit and kind of talk about the event overall and seeing members come together, dinners and what have you. Michaela, you've been to several OQMs now. How did this one maybe differ? Did it differ? What are your takeaways?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that stood out to me was just, at each of these OQMs, it's great to see the attendees being able to connect in person. Those conversations that happen between sessions, during meals, just throughout the week are such an important part of the OQM experience. I think the combination of the education, networking, and the unique activities, in this case, the bowling tour and the group activity, those make the OQM so valuable. It also gives the attendees a chance to learn from the industry experts, connect with peers, and then I believe build just those relationships that go beyond the event.
Going beyond the event and even our industry, really. They have so many of these industry-related conversations, and the networking is obviously a huge part of it. But, I think I heard numerous times from individuals who attended that Boeing tour that getting to see and think through, like, wow, could this be something that might work in our plant, right? Taking from another industry, implementing it here. And that's always really cool to see as well. And Taylor, you put all these magic pieces together. Tell me more.
I think it's always great to see how much attendance we have at these offsite events. And the Boeing tour was something that we had added on from feedback, I believe, from Austin for those who arrived early. on Monday or maybe Tuesday morning wanting to do something before we start the actual OQM. And so we kind of threw this in there to give them an activity. And I mean, we only had a certain number of slots available for their tour, and I only heard positive feedback from that tour. Similarly, I did, picking our restaurant for the group dinner, I did kind of put, I would say, our attendees out of their typical comfort zone with a Peruvian family style restaurant. And that was another one where I was a little unsure about the attendance, and it filled up. And it sounds like all the feedback I've received was that dinner was an absolute hit. Everybody loved it. So that's always good to see too. And it's fun when I try something a little bit different and put our attendees a little bit outside of their comfort zone, just seeing how much like they still enjoyed it and are still participating in all of those. And same goes with the happy hour and team building event. So we did a networking happy hour bowling situation that was sponsored by Forward. And there were so many people. Sometimes these happy hours, it's at the end of a long day. People have plans. They're going to get dinner with others. And I think pretty much everybody who had attended the kickoff just traveled right across to the happy hour events. It's always really good to see people networking post just at the sessions themselves.
And you and Allie did such a great job in selecting the hotel and locations that were close. I mean, for anyone who didn't attend, it was just a walkway that connected a sky bridge, that connected these two locations. So you guys really just going with the baseball theme here, like the knock it out of the park, right? Seattle Mariners, I feel it. So let's switch as a wrap up, kind of switching gears again. Molly, I want to ask you overall, what's your takeaway, but also, for anybody who maybe didn't attend the OQM, what is it that makes these really so valuable?
That's a great question, Ashley. I had so many great takeaways. It's going to be hard to narrow it down. And y'all know I'm very talkative, so we'll see what I can do here. But, on the outset, a little selfishly, if I may, this was a great opportunity for some of our newest staff to be introduced to the whole OQM experience. So from an internal perspective, to be able to share that experience with Amanda and Corey and Kevin, that is incredible all on its own. And then more importantly, for them to experience our membership in the way that I find to be one of the most valuable things we do is also incredible. As we pointed out earlier, this just gave everybody faces to put with names, lists of people to contact, relationships that are starting to form over time. And so those are some of the most important things that we can be doing as a staff. And honestly, I mean, as everyone's aware, we're not sitting in a component manufacturing plant regularly. So getting some folks out onto those tours to get to see component manufacturing live in real time, don't tempt me with a good time. I always want to go see a component manufacturing plant. I don't care where it is. I don't care who owns it. I want to go see it. They're all different. They're all nuanced, and that's wonderful. And I'm so glad our team finally got a chance to do that. Sort of secondarily, of course, and then, but not the most important thing I'm always thinking about is to have our members at heart and make sure they're having a good experience. And it's really wonderful to walk into an event like that, knowing how prepared everybody is from our team, knowing how prepared you've allowed our membership to be as far as what to expect, when to be where they need to be, get everything, worked into their schedules. There's something for everybody. Honestly, there's just something for everybody, whether it's going on a tour or one of the education sessions. And, if you weren't technical, maybe Greg's wasn't the thing for you, but the AI session was. And if those two weren't your thing, safety was your session. I just really love that there's something, whether it's a social event or it's a learning opportunity or it's a committee participation situation, everybody has a way to get involved and take away something, right? Again, maybe it's not that big aha moment, but taking away an experience to me is just as valuable as that aha moment any single time. Those relationships become the foundation of how our manufacturers interact with each other, who they call afterwards, who they can ask for help. From all of those perspectives, it was just overall a wonderful event. And honestly, the OQMs really are some of our best curated events where it's a small group in a regional area and everybody's going to take something home with them. Shout out to Taylor on the food. That was an excellent experience. I heard lots of really great things. And the last thing I want to say is one thing, and I believe that it was during your session, Corey, with Evan Lifford from Shelter Systems, who said, common sense isn't common until you've gained experience. And I heard several people repeat that specific comment to me. It just tells me that people were listening. people were thinking about what they were experiencing last week in Washington, and you can't put a price tag on that.
What a great point. And to your point about, something for everyone, I think we even had members who have some older children, late high school, early college, who came and got to experience all of these things and even sat in on sessions. The value of OQMs, it's not just what's on the agenda, right? What we see online, it's the conversations, the relationships, the ideas, those opportunities that happen when our industry or individuals in our industry get together in one place. And I think that, if Bellevue taught us anything, it's that some of these experiences really can't be replicated through an email recap. So for those of you out there, of course, we hope to see you at the next OQM, which is in December. Taylor, would you like to share a few notes about our December OQM?
Yes. So the December OQM is going to be, like Ashley said, in December, but it will be in Charlotte. It will be the 8th through the 10th. And of course, as always, we will plan lots of fun things, other activities. Ashley is already working on great education and potential offsite activities. So we will make sure to keep everybody updated as that comes together a little more.
Wonderful. And we're already working on 2027. So a couple of months and locations that we could potentially tell.
So yes, the first OQM for 2027 is finalized. I can even give you the dates. It is going to be in conjunction with IBS in Las Vegas. So that is the first week of February. It's going to look a little different from your traditional OQM. So keep your eye out for updates. Registration for that will be open in conjunction with the IBS registration. So you can do them both at the same time. That way it doesn't accidentally slip your mind and you forget to register. Other than that, I can give months and locations for the next two. The second OQM will be in April in Dallas. And then the third OQM we'll have next year will be in July in Chicago.
Ooh, we're excited for Chicago. I know a couple of folks on our staff who are especially excited for Chicago. Well, we thank you all for tuning in. We hope that this creates some ideas and a desire to want to attend those OQMs upcoming in December and into 2027. We would all love to see you. Thanks for joining us. And that's a wrap. Thank you all for joining me today and sharing your experience and your takeaways from our OQM. If you enjoyed this episode and found it valuable, please like it and share it with others. Stay up to date and in the know by subscribing to Component Connection on whatever podcast platform you use most.
Thanks for listening to Component Connection, brought to you by SBCA. If there's a topic you'd like us to explore in a future episode, email us at podcast@sbcacomponents.com.